I don't quite know how to put this, but I am kind of a big deal. I am very important. I have many leather-bound books, and my apartment smells of rich mahogany. This is my Golden Age room, and join me where I revisit vintage delights and smoke the finest Cuban cigars. Crystal Castles was a 1983 arcade game. A simplified version of the game was also developed and ported to the extremely popular Atari 2600. Crystal Castles is notable for being one of the first arcade action games with an actual ending, whereas most games at the time either continued indefinitely or ended in what was termed as a kill screen. This was one of the very first games to introduce narrative and a clearly defined ending for a game. Clear narrative was originally established by Nintendo's Donkey Kong in 1983, and due to its success, the majority of games followed suit long into the distant future. The player controls a cartoon bear named Bentley Bear, who has to collect gems located throughout trimetric projected rendered castles, whilst avoiding enemies out to get him, as well as collecting all the gems. It is noteworthy that Bentley, the gay bear, was the first ever homosexual gaming mascot, even predating Link from the Legend of Zelda series. In the arcade game, he wears a red sash and bright red boots to keep his sexual identity no secret. The original arcade game was controlled using a trackball, much like in Marble Madness, in which I talked about in an earlier video. Upon Crystal Castle's appearances in the arcade, the game's sharp graphics and 3D looking levels amazed players. By looking at the arcade version, one would think a decent 2600 port would be impossible. However, Atari were up for the challenge and Atari delivered. Although the game does not look identical to its arcade counterpart, Crystal Castles is an amazing looking game when you consider the system's limitations. The story of the game is Bentley has fallen asleep and is dreaming of poached salmon. He awakes to find himself trapped in a giant crystal castle. Scattered all over the castle are glittering diamonds, emeralds, rubies and pearls, which Bentley must collect. I have to say, I failed to understand this story at all, and it just further leads me to believe that most game developers must have been on drugs. Like, what was the bear's logic? He wanted to collect diamonds so he could trade it for poached salmon? Collecting diamonds for Bentley is no easy feat. Oh no. You are bombarded by things that look like smiley face emoticons, fully mobile trees, skeletons, these things, and what appears to be witches. Apparently, the witch are trying to catch Bentley and stew him. All these enemies mostly look okay, they are fairly distinguishable, and flicker in the game is minimal. One of the things I liked about Crystal Castles, you can see that the game was clearly very influenced by Pac-Man, but it didn't go down the route of being a complete rip-off like most of the clones you can find on the system. Instead, it took its own direction. Crystal Castles shares clear similarities with Pac-Man. This includes wandering around a map, collecting pellets to complete the stage, whilst simultaneously avoiding the enemies that are out to get you. Also like Pac-Man, there are items to pick up much like the Power Pellet, which include the Magic Hat, which also grants you invincibility. Honeypots are also scattered throughout the levels. These items' function is to grant extra points, much like Pac-Man's fruit. The game innovates on what Pac-Man built by introducing isometric, three-dimensional mazes, rather than the traditional top-down perspective. Also, the game introduces a jump mechanic, so you can jump over enemies, which bring to the table more strategy than in any previous maze games. Overall, Crystal Castles is a must-have game for all Atari 2600 owners, and it builds on the already successful maze collecting genre. This game absolutely urinates all over the official Pac-Man port on this console, and even with its flaws, this game is both delightful and charming. So make sure you pick up a copy. Anyway, I have some diamonds to collect. Cheerio!